Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terra's Pride, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. 3 months ago, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel. Now, they were exploring space beyond their solar system. For the first time, Jake felt proud to be leading this historic mission. "Captain, we're getting strange readings on our sensors," said Lieutenant Amy Nelson from her station. Her voice carried worry. Jake walked over to look at her screen. The display showed massive objects approaching Earth from deep space. These weren't asteroids or comets. The shapes were too regular, too purposeful. "How big are these things?" Jake asked. "Each one is over 2 miles long, sir. There are 12 of them, and they're heading straight for Earth." Jake's heart began to race. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was, coming to them. Back on Earth, alarms were ringing in every major city. President Lisa Carter rushed to the Emergency Command Center beneath Washington. General Ryan Blake was already there, along with Dr. Amanda Fox, the planet's top scientist. "Tell me what we're dealing with," President Carter said as she entered the room. 12 massive ships just appeared over our major cities, General Blake reported. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. They're all covered by these things. Dr. Fox looked at her tablet with concern. The technology required to build ships that size and move them that fast, it's far beyond anything we have. President Carter stared at the main screen showing the alien vessels. Each ship cast a shadow over entire city districts. Millions of people were looking up at the sky, wondering if this was humanity's last day. Suddenly, every television, radio, and computer screen on Earth displayed the same image. A tall, thin alien with silver skin and large black eyes appeared. When it spoke, somehow everyone heard it in their own language. "People of Earth, I am Ambassador Vextar of the Galactic Council. We represent the civilized species of this galaxy. Today we extend an invitation for humanity to join us." The alien's voice was calm but carried an edge that made everyone listening feel uncomfortable. For over 10,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained peace among 847 different species. We have eliminated war, prevented suffering, and created a stable civilization that spans the stars. President Carter watched with growing tension. This didn't sound like a friendly visit. However, the alien continued. "We have observed humanity's violent nature. Your wars, your weapons, your aggressive expansion into space. These things threaten galactic peace." On the moon, Commander Alex Turner monitored the alien ships from Luna Base. His instruments showed that the ships were scanning everything: Earth's defenses, weapon systems, population centers. "They're mapping our entire military capability," he reported to Earth Command. "Every missile site, every military base, even our defensive satellites." Ambassador Vexatar's message continued. "Therefore, the Council offers humanity these terms for joining galactic civilization. First, you must surrender all weapons and military technology. Second, you will submit to genetic modification to reduce your aggressive tendencies. Third, 90% of your population will relocate to designated colony worlds under Council supervision. Fourth, all technology development and reproduction will require Council approval." The terms hit like a physical blow. President Carter felt sick. These aliens weren't offering friendship, they were demanding surrender. "In return," Vextar said, "the Council will protect humanity from the dangers of space and provide limited access to our knowledge. You have 72 hours to accept these generous terms." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Dr. Kate Sullivan worked frantically in her laboratory, analyzing the little data they had about the Council. What she found was disturbing. Every species that had joined the Council had stopped advancing technologically. Their art, their culture, their science, everything had become identical, standardized. "They're not protectors," she told her assistant. "They're controllers. Look at this data. Not one Council species has developed new technology in centuries. They've all been locked into the same patterns." President Carter called an emergency meeting with world leaders. Prime Minister John Davies from Britain, Chancellor Marie Dubois from France, and leaders from every major nation appeared on the secure video link. What are our options? President Carter asked. General Blake was blunt. Military resistance would be suicide. Those ships could destroy our cities without breaking a sweat. But if we surrender, said Dr. Fox, we're giving up everything that makes us human. Our freedom, our children's future, our right to choose our own path. Prime Minister Davies spoke up. Perhaps we should consider their offer. Survival is better than extinction. Survival as slaves, President Carter replied. Is that really living? As the hours passed, humanity debated. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to submit. Fear gripped every corner of the planet. Colonel Steve Barnes, however, was not debating. He was preparing. At military bases around the world, he coordinated with other officers. If humanity chose to fight, they would need every advantage they could get. Sir, what can we possibly do against ships that size? Asked Major Lisa Wong. We do what humans have always done, Barnes replied. We adapt, we improvise, and we never give up. Captain Jenny Walsh was conducting test flights of humanity's newest fighter design, the Defiant. The small ship was built for speed and maneuverability, not heavy combat. But it was uniquely human, unpredictable and flexible in ways that standardized alien technology might not expect. Dr. Ben Parker worked with a team of scientists studying the alien ships from a distance. They couldn't get close, but they could observe energy patterns, heat signatures, and flight behaviors. Their technology is incredibly advanced, he reported, but it's also very regular. Same energy frequencies, same flight patterns, same everything. It's like they built everything from the same blueprint. As the deadline approached, President Carter made her decision. She would address not just humanity, but the Galactic Council directly, standing before the cameras, with the alien ships visible in the sky behind her. She spoke words that would change the galaxy forever. Ambassador Vextar, we have considered your offer carefully. Humanity appreciates that you took the time to present these terms to us. She paused, knowing that her next words would determine humanity's fate. However, we must respectfully decline. Humanity chooses to forge its own path among the stars. We will not surrender our freedom, our children, or our future to anyone. The die was cast. Humanity had refused the Galactic Council's demands. Now they would face the consequences of that choice. Ambassador Vexistar's face appeared on screens across Earth moments after President Carter's speech. His calm expression had changed to something cold and angry. Your response is disappointing but not unexpected, he said. Primitive species often make foolish choices. The Galactic Council has dealt with such defiance before. The aliens' black eyes seem to look directly at everyone watching. Humanity has been classified as dangerously aggressive and unfit for civilized society. Enforcement protocols will now begin. The transmission ended and the 12 massive ships began to move. They spread out from their positions over Earth's cities, taking strategic positions around the planet. President Carter was already in the command bunker when the ships moved. General Blake stood beside her, watching the tactical displays. They're positioning for a planetary siege, he reported. Classic pattern: control the high ground, cut off escape routes, then apply pressure until the enemy surrenders. How long do we have? President Carter asked. If they start bombing cities, maybe hours. If they're planning a slower approach, maybe days or weeks. Dr. Amanda Fox looked up from her computer. I don't think they want to destroy us completely. If they did, they would have started shooting already. They want us alive but broken. On Luna Base, Commander Alex Turner watched as smaller alien ships approached the moon. His base had the best view of what the aliens were doing, and what he saw worried him. They're deploying some kind of scanning equipment, he reported to Earth. Not weapons, at least not yet. They're studying our defenses more carefully. Colonel Steve Barnes had spent the last 3 days preparing for this moment. Military bases around the world were ready to fight, even though everyone knew it seemed hopeless. Remember, he told his officers over the secure communication network, we're not trying to win a conventional war. We're trying to survive long enough to find their weaknesses. The first attack came at dawn, Small alien fighters swept down from the massive ships targeting military installations. But something strange happened. The attacks were precise but not devastating. The aliens seemed to be testing human responses rather than trying to destroy everything. Captain Jenny Walsh was in the cockpit of her Defiant fighter when the alien ships approached her base. She launched into the air, knowing that her small ship was no match for alien technology. But she had to try. "This is Defiant engaging enemy fighters," she radioed. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns. But Jenny didn't fly in formation. She twisted, rolled, and changed direction in ways that seemed random. The alien targeting systems, designed to fight predictable enemies, couldn't lock onto her chaotic flight pattern. "I'm still alive," she reported with surprise. "Their weapons keep missing when I fly unpredictably." This news spread quickly through human forces. Other pilots began copying Jenny's tactics, and suddenly human fighters were lasting longer than anyone expected. Dr. Ben Parker was watching the battle from his laboratory when he noticed something important. The alien weapons and shields all operated on the same frequencies. They were designed to work together perfectly, but this also made them predictable. "They've standardized everything," he told his team. "Their weapons expect to fight other standardized weapons. Our equipment is different enough that it's causing interference with their systems." This discovery changed everything. Human weapons weren't more powerful than alien ones, but they were different. And different was something the Galactic Council wasn't prepared for. Lieutenant Sam Hayes led a dangerous mission that night. While alien forces were focused on the major battles, she took a small team to capture one of their damaged scout ships that had crashed in the mountains. The mission was almost suicidal, but they needed alien technology to study. Sam and her team approached the crash site carefully, not knowing if the aliens inside were alive or dead. "The ship's still powered," reported Sergeant Mike Davis, studying his scanner. "But I'm not detecting any life signs." They found 3 alien bodies inside the ship. The creatures were similar to Ambassador Vexitar, tall, thin, with silver skin. But what interested Sam more was their equipment. "Everything's standardized," she radioed back to base. "Their weapons, their tools, even their uniforms, it's all exactly the same. There's no variation at all." The captured ship was quickly transported to a secret facility where Dr. Parker's team could study it. What they found was both encouraging and frightening. "Their technology is incredibly advanced," Dr. Parker reported to President Carter. "But it's also incredibly rigid. Every system is designed to work with every other system in exactly the same way. They've eliminated all variation." "What does that mean for us?" President Carter asked. "It means they're powerful but predictable. They can't adapt quickly to new situations because their entire civilization is built around avoiding change." Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening across the galaxy. News of humanity's resistance was spreading through the galactic communication networks, and other species were taking notice. The Kythera, an aquatic species that had been conquered by the Council centuries ago, began sending secret messages to Earth. Their leader, a being called Wave Singer Kef, managed to contact Dr. Amanda Fox through hidden communication channels. "Your resistance gives us hope," the message said. "We are not the first to refuse the Council, but we are the first to fight successfully. Many species remember what freedom felt like before the Council came." Dr. Fox was amazed. Humanity wasn't alone in wanting freedom from the Council's control. Other species were watching and hoping. Captain Roy Gibson commanded a converted mining ship called the Iron Will. When the attacks began, civilian ships like his were supposed to evacuate to safety. Instead, Roy and dozens of other civilian captains decided to fight. Their ships weren't designed for combat, but they were built for the dangerous work of space mining and construction. They were tough, flexible, and operated by crews who knew how to solve problems creatively. "This is Iron Will requesting permission to engage enemy forces," Roy radioed to military command. "Negative, Iron Will. You're not equipped for combat." "With respect, sir, we're humans. We'll make our own equipment work." Roy and the civilian fleet moved to defend the orbital stations around Earth. Their ships looked nothing like military vessels, and they didn't fight like military vessels either. This confusion worked in their favor. The alien tactical computers couldn't classify the human civilian ships. Were they warships, transport vessels, mining equipment? The uncertainty made it harder for the aliens to target them effectively. Dr. Helen Ward, a psychologist studying the alien behavior, made an important discovery. She watched recordings of the battles and noticed something about how the aliens fought. They're not just technologically standardized, she reported. They're psychologically standardized, too. They expect enemies to behave in predictable ways. When we do something unexpected, it doesn't just confuse their computers, it confuses them. As the first day of fighting ended, humanity had lost several military bases and hundreds of lives. But they had also learned something crucial. The Galactic Council's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. They were powerful because they all worked together perfectly. But this same unity made them unable to handle chaos, unpredictability, and individual creativity. President Carter addressed the nation that night, speaking from a secure bunker as alien ships patrolled the skies above. "Today we learned that we can fight back," she said. "We can't match their technology, but we have something they don't. The ability to adapt, to change, to try new things even when we're afraid. Tomorrow will be harder. They'll bring more ships, better weapons, and they'll try to break our spirit. But we are human beings, and we have never given up when fighting for our freedom." The war for humanity's independence had truly begun. 3 weeks after the first attacks, secret messages began reaching Earth from across the galaxy. Dr. Carl Mason, humanity's best diplomat, worked around the clock to decode and respond to these communications. The first clear message came from a species called the Kythera. These aquatic beings had been among the first conquered by the Galactic Council over 1,000 years ago. Their representative, Wavesinger Kef, managed to establish a secure communication link with Earth. "Greetings, brave humans," the message began. "We speak to you in secret, for the Council watches all communications. Your resistance has awakened something in the galaxy that we thought was dead. Hope." Dr. Mason read the message to President Carter and the Emergency Council. The aliens' words were translated by the computers, but the emotion behind them came through clearly. "We were like you once," the message continued. "We refused the Council's demands and fought for our freedom. But we fought alone, and we were not strong enough. The Council defeated us and took away our warriors, our scientists, our dreamers. Now we serve them, but we remember what freedom felt like." President Carter authorized Dr. Mason to respond carefully. They needed to know more about these potential allies. "How many species want to be free from the Council?" Dr. Mason asked. In his reply, the answer surprised everyone. "More than you might think. The Council rules 847 species, but only about 200 joined willingly. The rest were conquered, like us. Most have given up hope, but some still remember." Over the following days, more species made contact. The Threxians, reptilian beings who had been master engineers before the Council standardized all their technology. The Vorthon, energy beings who had been forced into physical forms that limited their abilities. The Nexari, former explorers, who had been forbidden from leaving their assigned worlds. Each species had the same story. They had once been unique, creative, and free. The Council had taken that away from them, claiming it was for the greater good of galactic peace. Captain Nicole Reed was assigned to coordinate with these alien contacts. As a former intelligence officer, she was skilled at building relationships with people from different backgrounds. But working with aliens was a new challenge. "The important thing to understand," Wavesinger Kef explained during one of their conversations, "is that the Council maintains power through more than just superior weapons. They control information, resources, and most importantly, they control hope." "How do they control hope?" Nicole asked. "By convincing everyone that resistance is impossible. They point to their 1,000 years of success and say, 'See, no one can defeat us.' They make each species believe they are alone in wanting freedom." This gave Nicole an idea. What if they knew they weren't alone? What if all the species that want freedom could see that others feel the same way? Commander Tony Brooks was working with the alien contacts to understand the Council's military structure. What he learned was both encouraging and terrifying. The Council's military was incredibly large, millions of ships from hundreds of different species, but it was also incredibly rigid. Every ship followed the same basic design. Every crew was trained to follow the same procedures. Every battle plan followed the same patterns. They've been fighting the same way for 1,000 years, Tony reported to his superiors. It works because most enemies either surrender quickly or fight using predictable tactics. But if someone could introduce chaos into their system... Engineer Paul Davis was working with alien defectors to understand Council technology. The aliens who contacted Earth couldn't send much technical information. The Council monitored all communications. But they could send small pieces of data that, when put together, revealed important weaknesses. Their power systems are incredibly efficient, Paul explained to his team, but they're all interconnected. If you could disrupt the right frequency, you might be able to cause cascading failures across entire fleets. The alien allies also provided crucial intelligence about Council psychology. Dr. Helen Ward studied this information carefully. The Council species aren't naturally evil, she reported. But they've been conditioned over centuries to value order above everything else. They genuinely believe that preventing change and conflict is more important than freedom or creativity. They see humans as a disease, added Dr. Amanda Fox, who had been analyzing Council communications. To them, our unpredictability and aggression are symptoms of a dangerous mental illness that needs to be cured. This understanding helped humanity prepare for what came next. The Council wasn't just trying to conquer Earth, they were trying to save the galaxy from what they saw as a corrupting influence. Lieutenant Dan Foster was leading covert operations to supply the alien resistance movements. Using captured Council technology and help from their alien contacts, human special forces were able to move through space undetected. Dan's first mission was to deliver weapons and communication equipment to a Threxian resistance cell. The reptilian beings had been forced to abandon their advanced engineering skills, but they hadn't forgotten them. These human weapons are crude compared to our old technology, the Threxian leader, Scale Singer Vex, told Dan. But they work differently than Council weapons. Our people can modify them in ways the Council won't expect. Similar missions were launched to dozens of worlds. Human military doctrine, focused on adaptability and individual initiative, was shared with alien resistance fighters who had been forced to fight using standardized Council methods. The results were immediate. Across the galaxy, small acts of sabotage began disrupting Council operations. A communication relay here, a supply depot there. Each attack was small, but together they created something the Council hadn't seen in centuries: systematic disorder. Back on Earth, the war was intensifying. More Council ships arrived every week, and the attacks were becoming more focused and dangerous. But humanity was adapting faster than their enemies expected. Captain Jenny Walsh now led a squadron of human fighters that had learned to fight in ways that confused Council tactical computers. They called themselves the Chaos Wing, and their unpredictable tactics were spreading to other units. The key is to never do the same thing twice, Jenny explained to new pilots. The Council computers try to predict your next move based on your last move. If your moves don't follow any pattern, their targeting systems can't lock on effectively. Colonel Steve Barnes was coordinating the overall defense strategy. Intelligence from their alien allies had revealed something important. The Council was running out of patience. They expected us to surrender within days, he reported to President Carter. Every week we keep fighting damages their reputation across the galaxy. Other species are starting to believe that resistance might be possible. But they're bringing more ships, President Carter pointed out. Eventually they'll have enough firepower to overwhelm us no matter how clever we are. That's true, Barnes admitted. But we're not trying to win a traditional war. We're trying to inspire a galactic revolution. The plan was ambitious and dangerous. Instead of just defending Earth, humanity would take the fight to the Council. Small human fleets supported by alien allies would strike at Council facilities across the galaxy. Captain Lee Jordan was chosen to lead the first offensive mission beyond the solar system. His ship, the Venture, was equipped with the best human and captured alien technology they could put together. Our target is a Council communication hub in the Proxima sector, he briefed his crew. If we can disrupt their communications, the resistance cells across the galaxy can coordinate their attacks. The mission was incredibly risky. If Jordan's ship was captured, the Council would learn about humanity's alien allies and probably destroy them all. As the venture prepared to leave, the solar system messages of support came from resistance cells across the galaxy. Species that had been silent for centuries were starting to speak up. "You have given us something precious," Wave Singer Kef told Dr. Mason in their latest communication. "You have reminded us that freedom is worth fighting for, even when the odds seem impossible." The galactic revolution that would shake the very foundations of Council power was about to begin, and it all started with humanity's simple refusal to surrender their freedom. Admiral Zexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Order, and felt something he had never experienced in his 3 centuries of service: uncertainty. The massive Council fleet he commanded was the largest ever assembled, with over 10,000 ships from 50 different member species. "Admiral, the human resistance continues to spread beyond their solar system," reported his tactical officer, a tall Zephyrian with silver skin similar to Ambassador Vextar. "Our intelligence networks report sabotage on 47 different worlds in the past month." Zexmore studied the holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked locations where resistance activities had been detected. There were far too many red dots. "How is this possible?" he asked. "These species have been loyal Council members for centuries. What has changed?" "The humans, sir. Their example has inspired others to remember their pre-Council histories. For the first time in Council history, they faced not just one rebellious species, but a growing revolution that threatened their entire system of control. On Earth, General Claire Murphy coordinated the defense of humanity's home system. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had become a 3-dimensional battlefield where human ingenuity faced overwhelming Council firepower. "Remember," she told her fleet commanders, "we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We're trying to make them pay a price for every inch of space they take." The human ships were smaller and faster than Council vessels, converted from mining equipment, exploration ships, and even luxury space yachts. Each one was unique, modified by its crew to fight in ways that Council tactical computers couldn't predict. Captain Roy Gibson's Iron Will led a group of converted mining ships in a daring attack on a Council supply convoy. His ships looked like asteroids on sensors until they were close enough to attack. "This is Iron Will to all units," Roy radioed. "Remember, we're space miners. We know how to work in dangerous places and handle unstable situations. Use that knowledge." The mining ships attacked using their industrial equipment as weapons. Rock crushers became projectile launchers. Fusion cutters became beam weapons. The Council ships, expecting military weapons, were caught off guard by industrial tools being used creatively. Dr. Helen Ward had made another important discovery about Council psychology. She studied recordings of captured Council personnel and found something significant. "They're not just following orders," she reported to President Carter. "They genuinely believe they're helping us. In their minds, forcing us to join the Council is like treating a dangerous mental illness." "That makes them more dangerous," President Carter replied. "Someone who thinks they're saving you will do terrible things if they believe it's for your own good." "But it also makes them predictable," Dr. Ward continued. "They can't understand why anyone would choose chaos over order, freedom over safety. This blind spot makes them vulnerable to tactics they simply can't comprehend." Lieutenant Dan Foster was deep in Council space, working with alien resistance movements. His current mission was to help the Threxians sabotage a major Council shipyard. Threxians had been master shipbuilders before the Council conquered them. Their leader, Scale Singer Vex, still remembered the old techniques that had been forbidden for centuries. "Watch carefully, Human Dan," Vex said as they studied the shipyard from hiding. "Council ships are built to be identical, but that means they all have identical weaknesses." The Threxian engineers had identified critical stress points in Council ship designs. A small explosive charge in exactly the right location could cause catastrophic structural failure. "Your human weapons are perfect for this," Vex explained. "They're too primitive for Council sensors to detect easily, but they're powerful enough to do the job." The sabotage mission was a complete success. 7 partially completed Council warships were destroyed, and the shipyard was damaged so badly it would take months to repair. More importantly, the attack was carried out using pre-Council Threxian engineering knowledge that the Council thought had been eliminated. News of this spread quickly through alien resistance networks. Back in the Sol system, Captain Lee Jordan had returned from his first mission beyond human space. His attack on the Council communication hub had been successful, but he brought disturbing news. "They're preparing something big," he reported to the military leadership. "I saw massive fleets gathering at their main staging areas, more ships than we've ever seen before." Commander Rachel Brown, piloting the experimental ship Phoenix, was testing new weapons designed to exploit weaknesses in Council technology. Her ship was equipped with human-designed systems that operated on completely different principles than standard galactic technology. "The frequency disruption weapons are working better than expected," she reported after a test battle. "Council, shields are designed to stop energy weapons that operate on their standardized frequencies. Our weapons use different frequencies that their shields can't adapt to quickly enough." Dr. Kevin Walsh was working on what might be humanity's most important discovery. He had been studying the Council's command and control systems with help from alien defectors. "Their entire military operates through a unified command network," he explained to President Carter. "Every ship, every base, every unit is connected to this network. It allows them to coordinate perfectly, but it also creates a single point of failure." "You're saying if we could attack their network, we could paralyze their entire military?" President Carter asked. "Theoretically, yes, but the network is protected by layers of security and redundancy. It would take a coordinated attack on multiple critical nodes simultaneously." This discovery changed everything. Instead of trying to defeat the Council fleet ship by ship, humanity could potentially win by disrupting their ability to coordinate. The plan that emerged was incredibly ambitious. Human fleets working with alien resistance cells would launch simultaneous attacks on Council command centers across the galaxy. The timing would be critical. If the attacks weren't coordinated perfectly, the Council would adapt their defenses. Admiral Zexamore was beginning to understand the scope of the problem he faced. The reports from across his command area painted a picture of systematic chaos. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we've lost contact with 17 communication hubs, 34 supply depots, and 12 shipyards in the past week." "Are these random attacks or part of a coordinated plan?" Zexamore asked. "That's what concerns us, sir. The attacks appear random, but they're all targeting critical infrastructure. It's as if someone understands our logistical networks better than we do." The truth was even worse than Zexamore realized. The alien resistance fighters weren't just attacking randomly. They were using pre-Council knowledge that had been suppressed for centuries. Engineers who remembered how to build things differently. Tacticians who remembered strategies that didn't rely on standardized approaches. Captain Chris Morgan commanded one of the first joint human-alien combat units. His crew included Threxians, Cathera, Vorthon, and humans working together. The diversity that the Council tried to eliminate had become a military advantage. "The key to our success," he reported, "is that we don't think alike. When the Council expects us to do one thing, someone on our crew thinks of doing something completely different." The climactic battle for the galaxy was approaching. Council forces were massing for what they believed would be the final assault on Earth, but they didn't realize that the real battle would be fought in the communication networks that held their empire together. President Carter addressed not just humanity, but all the alien resistance cells listening on hidden communication channels. "For too long, the galaxy has been trapped in a prison of uniformity," she said. "The Council claims they bring peace, but what they really bring is stagnation. They've convinced entire civilizations to give up their dreams, their creativity, their freedom. Today that changes. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every species that remembers what it felt like to be free." Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, alien resistance fighters prepared for the battle that would determine the future of galactic civilization. The Council's 1,000-year reign of enforced order was about to face its greatest challenge. The war was no longer about humanity refusing to surrender. It had become about an entire galaxy refusing to accept that freedom and diversity were too dangerous to be allowed. The galaxy held its breath as the largest fleet in Council history approached Earth. Admiral Zexmore commanded over 15,000 warships, representing the full military might of the galactic government. This force was designed to end human resistance once and for all. "Begin the final assault," Zexmore ordered from his flagship. "Target all military installations and major population centers. Humanity will surrender or face extinction." But unknown to the Admiral, President Carter was no longer just defending Earth. In hidden bases across human space, she was coordinating the most ambitious military operation in galactic history. "All units, this is command," she broadcast on encrypted channels that reached both human forces and alien resistance cells across the galaxy. "Operation Starburst is now active. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting to free the entire galaxy." Captain Lee Jordan led the human fleet liberator toward the Council's primary command center at Zephyr Prime, the Council's capital world. His mission was almost impossible: penetrate the most heavily defended system in the galaxy and disable the Central Command Network. "Sir," his navigation officer reported, "we're detecting over 1,000 Council ships defending the capital system." "Then we'll have to be more creative than usual," Lee replied. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy their fleet. We just need to reach the command center." Meanwhile, Captain Jenny Walsh's Chaos Wing had evolved into something the Council had never seen before. Her pilots now flew in formations that seemed completely random, but were actually based on complex mathematical patterns that confused Council targeting systems. "This is Chaos Wing to all fighters," Jenny radioed as the battle began. "Remember, organized chaos beats organized order every time." Her fighters swept through the Council formation like a storm, appearing and disappearing in patterns that seemed impossible to predict. Council ships fired at empty space while human fighters attacked from unexpected angles. On Earth, General Claire Murphy watched the tactical displays with growing hope. The Council fleet was massive, but it was also predictable. Every ship followed standard attack patterns that human forces had learned to counter. "Their strength is their weakness," she told her staff. "They're so coordinated that they can't adapt when individual units start behaving differently." Commander Rachel Brown piloted the Phoenix through the thick of the battle, her ship's unique weapons causing chaos in Council formations. Her frequency disruption systems were jamming Council communications and making their ships unable to coordinate effectively. "This is Phoenix," she reported. "Council shields are failing faster than they can adapt. Their standardized defense systems can't handle our non-standard weapons." But the most important battle was happening far from Earth. Dr. Kevin Walsh had identified 7 critical command nodes that controlled the Council's military network. If all 7 could be attacked simultaneously, the entire Council military would lose coordination. Lieutenant Dan Foster was leading the attack on the command node in the Rigel sector. His team included human special forces and Threxian engineers who remembered how Council systems really worked. "The security is exactly as our intelligence predicted," reported Scale Singer Vex, the Threxian leader. "They've relied on the same protective systems for centuries. They never considered that someone might remember the old ways to bypass them." Using pre-Council Threxian technology and human adaptability, Dan's team penetrated defenses that had been considered impenetrable for 1,000 years. Across the galaxy, similar attacks were taking place. Captain Nicole Reed led a joint human Cathera force against the command node at Aqua Centauri. The aquatic Cathera had maintained secret knowledge of underwater approaches to the facility that Council security had never discovered. Commander Tony Brooks attacked the node at Binary Station using Vorthan energy beings who could pass through solid matter, an ability the Council had tried to suppress, but never completely eliminated. Each attack was small, but together they represented something unprecedented. Dozens of different species using their unique abilities to fight back against standardized oppression. On Earth, the space battle was reaching its climax. Admiral Zexmore's massive fleet was pressing toward the planet, but they were paying a terrible price. Human defenders used every trick they could think of, turning the battle into the chaotic, unpredictable fight that favored human tactics. Captain Roy Gibson's converted mining. Ships had turned the asteroid belt into a deadly maze. They moved through the rocks like they belonged there, using their industrial equipment to create hazards that Council ships couldn't navigate safely. "This is our neighborhood," Roy radioed to his crews. "These Council ships might be more advanced, but they don't know how to work in a real industrial environment." The breakthrough came when Dr. Kevin Walsh's plan succeeded. 7 command nodes across the galaxy went offline within minutes of each other, and the effect on Council forces was immediate and devastating. "Sir," Admiral Zexmore's communication officer reported with panic in his voice, "we've lost contact with Fleet Command. All our ships are operating independently." For the first time in centuries, Council military units had to think for themselves instead of following coordinated orders. And they discovered something disturbing. They had forgotten how to fight as individuals. Council ships that had always operated in perfect harmony began colliding with each other. Battle plans that depended on precise timing fell apart. Commanders, who had never made independent decisions, froze when they couldn't contact their superiors. "All ships maintain your positions," Zexmore ordered desperately. But without the command network, his orders couldn't reach most of his fleet. The chaos spread quickly. Across the galaxy, Council forces found themselves cut off from Central Command. Some tried to continue their missions. Others retreated to defensive positions. Many simply waited for orders that would never come. Captain Lee Jordan's mission to Zephyr Prime had succeeded beyond expectations. Not only had his team disabled the Central Command Center, but they had also captured crucial intelligence about Council operations. "We've got their complete database," he reported to President Carter. "Every Council operation, every suppressed species history, every detail of how they maintain control. This information could free the entire galaxy." The tide of battle had turned completely. Council forces that had seemed invincible hours earlier were now scattered and confused. Their greatest strength, perfect coordination, had become their greatest weakness when that coordination was disrupted. But the most important victory was happening on the Council member worlds themselves. As news spread that the Council military had been defeated, species that had been suppressed for centuries began to remember who they had been before the conquest. Wavesinger Kef sent a message from the Kythera homeworld. "The Council governors are fleeing. For the first time in 1,000 years, Kythera children are asking questions about the old songs, the ones we were forbidden to sing." Similar reports came from dozens of worlds. The Threxians were rebuilding their engineering guilds. The Vorthon were returning to their energy forms. The Nexari were preparing exploration ships for the first time in centuries. Admiral Zexmore found himself commanding a broken fleet orbiting a planet that had successfully resisted the full might of the Galactic Council. The impossible had happened. A primitive species had not only survived but had inspired a galaxy-wide revolution. "Sir," his tactical officer reported quietly, "we're receiving surrender requests from human forces." For a moment, Zexmore felt hope. Then he realized what his officer had actually said. "Not surrender offers, sir, surrender requests. They're asking us to surrender to them." The unthinkable had become reality. The Galactic Council, rulers of the galaxy for over a millennium, had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive and dangerous. President Carter's voice reached Admiral Zexmore's flagship on an open communication channel. "Admiral Zexmore, this is President Carter of Earth. I'm offering you and your forces the opportunity to surrender with honor. Your ships will not be harmed, and your crews will be treated with respect. We're also prepared to discuss the future of galactic civilization. But that discussion will be between equals, not between conquerors and conquered. The age of the Galactic Council was ending. The age of galactic freedom was about to begin." 6 months after the fall of the Galactic Council, President Lisa Carter stood before representatives from over 300 different species on the neutral world of Haven. The planet had been chosen specifically because it had no history with either humanity or the Council. It was one of the few worlds that had remained hidden from galactic civilization until now. "We gather here not as conquerors and conquered," President Carter began, "but as free beings working together to build a better future for all species in the galaxy." The Great Assembly, as historians would later call it, represented the largest gathering of diverse, intelligent life in recorded history. Species that had been forced into uniformity for centuries were rediscovering their unique cultures and perspectives. Wave-singer Kef of the Kythera floated in a specially designed water tank, her aquatic form shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that expressed joy, emotions that had been suppressed under council rule. "The humans did something we thought impossible," she said, her words translated for all the assembled species. "They reminded us that diversity is not dangerous, it is beautiful." Scale singer Vex of the Threxians stood proudly in his full ceremonial armor, wearing colors and designs that had been forbidden for 1,000 years. "My people have begun teaching our young ones the old engineering ways," he announced. "Already they are designing ships and tools that surpass anything the Council ever allowed us to build." But the transition to freedom was not easy. Dr. Amy Nelson led humanitarian missions to dozens of worlds where entire populations had forgotten how to make decisions for themselves. "Many species have lived under council control for so many generations that independence terrifies them," she reported to the assembly. "We're not just freeing their bodies, we're having to help them remember how to free their minds." The former council worlds faced massive challenges. On Zephyr Prime, the former capital, Ambassador Vextar worked with human advisors to establish a democratic government. It was slow, difficult work. "We spent our entire history believing that order was more important than freedom," Vextar admitted, during one of the planning sessions. "Learning to value individual choice over collective stability is harder than we expected." Captain Chris Morgan commanded the starship Unity, the first vessel with a truly integrated crew from dozens of different species. His mission was to explore regions of space that the Council had declared forbidden. "Captain's log," he recorded. "As they approached an ancient stellar formation, we've discovered the ruins of what appears to be a massive space station. The architecture doesn't match any known species in our database. The forbidden zones had hidden many secrets. The Council had declared certain areas off limits not because they were dangerous, but because they contained evidence of civilizations that had thrived before the Council's rise to power." Dr. Kate Sullivan led the archaeological teams studying these ancient sites. What they found changed everything humanity thought they knew about galactic history. "This isn't the first time the galaxy has been united," she reported to the assembly. "These ruins show evidence of at least 3 previous galactic civilizations, each more advanced and diverse than the Council ever allowed. The Council didn't create galactic civilization, they destroyed it and replaced it with something smaller and more limited." The discoveries energized the newly free species. If their ancestors had achieved such wonders while maintaining their diversity, then the galaxy's future held unlimited possibilities. General Patricia Stone oversaw the complex process of transforming the Council's military forces. Many Council ships had been designed for oppression rather than exploration or defense. These vessels needed to be converted for peaceful purposes. "The interesting thing," she reported, "is how eager many former Council military personnel are to help with the transition. They joined the military to protect their people, not to suppress other species. Now they can serve their original purpose." Admiral Zexmore himself had become one of the most effective advocates for the new system. His detailed knowledge of Council operations helped identify and dismantle systems of oppression throughout the galaxy. "I spent 3 centuries believing I was keeping the peace," he told a gathering of former Council officers. "But peace maintained through fear and suppression isn't real peace. It's just delayed conflict." The new Galactic Federation that emerged was built on completely different principles than the old Council. Instead of enforcing uniformity, it celebrated diversity. Instead of suppressing innovation, it encouraged creativity. Captain Jake Morrison, who had been present at humanity's first contact with the Council, now commanded exploration missions to uncharted regions of space. His ship, the New Horizons, carried crews and equipment from dozens of different worlds. "We're not trying to conquer or control," he explained to newly contacted species. "We're trying to learn and share. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to grow and explore together." The children born in the years after the Council's fall were different from their parents. On the Threxian homeworld, young engineers created designs that combined traditional techniques with ideas borrowed from human, Kythera, and Vorthon technology. On Earth, human children grew up learning languages from dozens of different species. They played games that incorporated rules and concepts from across the galaxy. They dreamed of futures that previous generations could never have imagined. The most remarkable thing, observed Dr. Helen Ward, now studying post-Council society development, is how quickly species adapt to freedom when they're not afraid of being different. The transformation wasn't limited to technology and politics. Art, music, literature, and philosophy flourished as species that had been forced into conformity rediscovered their creative spirits. Kythera composers created symphonies that combined their traditional whale song harmonies with Threxian rhythm patterns and human melodic structures. The result was music unlike anything the galaxy had ever heard. Vorthon philosophers, free to explore abstract concepts that the Council had considered dangerous, developed new theories about consciousness and reality that challenged everyone's understanding of existence. Human writers worked with alien collaborators to create stories that explored what it meant to be truly different, yet still connected to a larger community. 5 years after the Council's defeat, President Carter, now serving as the first Director General of the Galactic Federation, reflected on how much had changed. "We set out simply to defend our right to be ourselves," she said during the anniversary celebration. "We never imagined that we would end up helping an entire galaxy remember what freedom feels like." The Federation now included over 400 member species, with more joining every year as hidden civilizations emerged from isolation and newly evolved species achieved space travel. Unlike the old Council, membership in the Federation was entirely voluntary. Species could join, leave, or remain independent as they chose. The only requirement was respect for the rights of other species to make their own choices. Captain Jenny Walsh, now an admiral commanding the Federation's rapid response fleet, summed up the change perfectly. "The Council tried to make the galaxy safe by making everyone the same. We're making it safe by teaching everyone to respect each other's differences." The final scene of humanity's great adventure took place on a frontier world called New Harmony. Children from dozens of different species played together in a park, their games incorporating elements from cultures across the galaxy. A young human girl and a Threxian hatchling worked together to build something in the sandbox. Part human castle, part Threxian crystal garden, and part something entirely new that neither species had ever imagined alone. Their parents watched from nearby benches, representing species that had once been enemies or strangers. Now they shared stories, compared experiences, and planned joint ventures that would benefit all their worlds. This was the future that humanity's refusal to surrender had made possible. Not human dominance over the galaxy, but a galaxy where every species could contribute their unique gifts to a civilization greater than any one people could create alone. The stars that had once been divided by fear and suppression now shone on worlds united by hope and mutual respect. And in that light, new wonders were being born every day.